has gone to a masquerade up in town, and he has set his heart upon seeing her. I don't think I could persuade myself to do that, beautiful as she is, but then I'm not in love. At least, I don't think I am, and that's the whole difference.' 'Is in love, then?' said the stranger. 'Rather,' replied Joe. 'He'll never be more in love, and may very easily be less.' 'Silence, sir!' cried his father. 'What a chap you are, Joe!' said Long Parkes. 'Such an inconsiderate lad!' murmured Tom Cobb. 'Putting himself forward and wringing the very nose off his own father's face!' exclaimed the parish clerk, metaphorically. 'What have I done?' reasoned poor Joe. 'Silence, sir!' returned his father. 'What do you mean by talking? When you see people that are more than 2 or 3 times your age, sitting still and silent, and not dreaming of saying a word.' 'Why, that's the proper time for me to talk, isn't it?' said Joe, rebelliously. 'The proper time, sir,' retorted his father. 'The proper time's no time.' 'Ah, to be sure!' muttered Parkes, nodding gravely to the other two, who nodded likewise, observing under their breaths that that was the point. 'The proper time's no time, sir,' repeated John Willet. 'When I was your age, I never talked. I never wanted to talk. I listened and improved myself. That's what I did.' 'And you'd find your father rather a tough customer in argument, Joe, if anybody was to try and tackle him,' said Parkes. 'For the matter of that, Phil,' observed Mr Willet, blowing a long thin spiral cloud of smoke out of the corner of his mouth, and staring at it abstractedly as it floated away, 'for the matter of that, Phil, argument is a gift of natur. If natur has gifted a man with powers of argument, a man has a right to make the best of 'em, and has not a right to stand on false delicacy, and deny that he is so gifted, for that is a turning of his back on natur, a floating of her, a slighting of her precious caskets, and a proving of one's self to be a swine that isn't worth her scattering pearls before.' The landlord pausing here for a very long time, Mr Parkes naturally concluded that he had brought his discourse to an end, and therefore, turning to the young man with some austerity, exclaimed, 'You hear what your father says, Joe. You wouldn't much like to tackle him in argument, I'm thinking, sir?' 'If,' said John Willet, turning his eyes from the ceiling to the face of his interrupter, and uttering the monosyllable in capitals, to apprise him that he had put in his oar, as the vulgar say, with unbecoming and irreverent haste. 'If, sir, natur has fixed upon me the gift of argument, why should I not own it, and rather glory in the same? Yes, sir, I am a tough customer that way. You are right, sir. My toughness has been proved, sir, in this room many and many a time, as I think you know. And if you don't know,' added John, putting his pipe in his mouth again, 'so much the better, for I an't proud, and am not going to tell you.' A general murmur from his 3 cronies, and a general shaking of heads at the copper boiler, assured John Willet that they had had good experience of his powers, and needed no further evidence to assure them of his superiority. John smoked with a little more dignity, and surveyed them in silence. 'It's all very fine talking,' muttered Joe, who had been fidgeting in his chair with divers uneasy gestures, 'but if you mean to tell me that I'm never to open my lips—' 'Silence, sir! roared his father. No, you never are. When your opinion's wanted, you give it. When you're spoke to, you speak. When your opinion's not wanted, and you're not spoke to, don't you give an opinion, and don't you speak. The world's undergone a nice alteration since my time, certainly. My belief is that there aren't any boys left, that there isn't such a thing as a boy, that there's nothing now between a male baby and a man, and that all the boys went out with His Blessed Majesty King George the Second. That's a very true observation, always excepting the young princes, said the parish clerk, who, as the representative of church and state in that company, held himself bound to the nicest loyalty. If it's godly and righteous for boys, being of the ages of boys, to behave themselves like boys, then the young princes must be boys, and cannot be otherwise.
Did you ever hear tell of mermaids, sir?
Said Mr Willet. Certainly I have, replied the clerk.
Very good, said Mr Willet. According to the constitution of mermaids, so much of a mermaid as is not a woman must be a fish. According to the constitution of young princes, so much of a young prince, if anything, as is not actually an angel, must be godly and righteous. Therefore, if it's becoming and godly and righteous in the young princes, as it is at their ages, that they should be boys, they are and must be boys, and cannot, by possibility, be anything else. This elucidation of a knotty point being received with such marks of approval as to put John Willet into a good humour, he contented himself with repeating to his son his command of silence, and addressing the stranger, said, If you had asked your questions of a grown-up person, of me or any of these gentlemen, you'd have had some satisfaction, and wouldn't have wasted breath. Miss Haredale is Mr Geoffrey Haredale's niece. Is her father alive?
Said the man carelessly.
No,
rejoined the landlord.
he is not alive, and he is not dead.
Not dead? Cried the other.
Not dead in a common sort of way, said the landlord.
The cronies nodded to each other, and Mr Parkes remarked in an undertone, shaking his head meanwhile, as to who should say, Let no man contradict me, for I won't believe him, that John Willet was an amazing force to-night, and fit to tackle a Chief Justice. The stranger suffered a short pause to elapse, and then asked abruptly,
What do you mean?
More than you think for, friend, returned John Willet. Perhaps there's more meaning in them words than you suspect.
Perhaps there is, said the strange man gruffly. But what the devil do you speak in such mysteries for? You tell me first that a man is not alive, nor yet dead, then that he's not dead in a common sort of way, then that you mean a great deal more than I think for. To tell you the truth, you may do that easily, for so far as I can make out, you mean nothing. What do you mean, I ask again?
That, returned the landlord, a little brought down from his dignity by the stranger's surliness, is a maypole story, and has been any time these 24 years. That story is Solomon Daisy's story. It belongs to the house, and nobody but Solomon Daisy has ever told it under this roof, or ever shall. That's more. The man glanced at the parish clerk, whose air of consciousness and importance plainly betokened him to be the person referred to.